Hey beautiful people, what is up? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another first impressions video. Today I'm going to be giving you guys my first impressions thoughts on the, it's not new no more, but when I actually filmed these looks, it was kind of new. But this is the Viseart Sirenuse Entendu palette. Now, this is one of the newest releases from the brand. I think they've had a couple more since then, but this was one of the first that actually caught my eye in a very long time. Now, I do have a pretty large Viseart collection, but when it comes to their palettes, I find that I don't reach for them a ton because in terms of the formula, they do tend to lean almost too soft. But we will get into all of that in terms of my final thoughts at the end. But to go into the regular, smegular structure, I'm just going to give you guys some product details, show you guys how it swatches on my complexion. I'm a medium deep complexion with a golden undertone. I'll be doing 2 eye looks. This is not one of them, so just ignore this. And then I'll come back at the end to give you guys my final thoughts. If this is your first time watching me, hi, welcome again. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and join the fam. All right, let's dive in. So again, we're going to be talking about the Viseart Sirenuse, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, so excuse me, palette. Now this is a 12 pan palette from the brand. Either way, you know, the brand tends to have very small palettes, but I think that this is a decent size amount of product. So we do get 1, 2, 3, 4 mattes, and what's that? 8 shimmers. And I will say that one of the shimmers, this one here, is a multichrome. It's a pretty standard multichrome that we see in, you know, kind of all over the place. So from like just first glance, this isn't a particularly new or different color story, but I do think that it is interesting for Viseart. Now, in terms of the formulation, outside of that sort of dual chrome slash multichrome shade, Viseart's shimmer formula does tend to be a little bit more on the satin side, so you're not going to get anything that's super toppery, super sparkly, super impactful. But that's just kind of how their products tend to lean. Couple last things. This does have a 36-month shelf life, which is actually really good for eyeshadow. And it was made in the USA. Let me figure out what the price of this is though. Hold on. So on the Viseart website, this does retail for $44. Viseart does go on sale very, very frequently. I don't think I've ever paid full price for a Viseart palette. What typically happens is that they tend to go 30, 40, 50% off over time. And then sometimes they end up in like the Ipsy Charm sort of sale section where you can get it for super cheap. So I wouldn't pay $44 for this, but it's actually not bad considering the Viseart quality is really good, and we know a lot of eyeshadow prices are well up there. All right, so those are all of the details. You guys got a chance to see the swatches. Let's dive into the demo, and then I'll come back to give you guys my thoughts at the end. Okay, so let's dive in. This is so beautiful. I want to put this one on the eyes just because it's the most interesting, I think, shade in the palette. But we're going to start with this shade here. It is like a cool toned neutral brown, almost like a peachy brown though. And I'm just gonna pop that into the crease. That's gonna be the transition shade for today's look. I'm using just a big fluffy Refa number 15. And I primed my eyes with the Milk Hydro Grip Primer. This is not the first time that I'm using this palette. I used it last week, and I used concealer as a primer, which worked fine for the mattes. It just didn't really help the shimmers stick as well as I wanted it to, so I'm trying a different eyeshadow base today. And that's actually looking really good. It's not having issues blending, which is awesome. And this is the deepest matte in the palette. I do think they could have gone one deeper because, I mean, for me and for anybody that is darker than me, it's not necessarily the deepest outer corner. No, there is a shimmer next to it. So this is a deep shimmer shade that you could use in the outer V because Viseart shimmers do blend out really nicely. So you can use that really, really dark brown as a matte in the outer V, but they could have given us one deeper matte brown, you know what I mean? So I'm just popping that into the outer V. And these mattes are blending beautifully on this primer. I mean, Viseart mattes have always been really great. They used to be the blueprint, I think. Well, at least I know people always compared everything to Viseart mattes. And they probably still do because it is, I think, more of a makeup artistry type brand. For me though, y'all know, I compare all my mattes to Blend Bunny mattes. These are great though. These are absolutely amazing mattes. Okay, so when I did use this palette, I used these 3 shades. I want to put this one on the eye, and I think I want to play in these 2 shimmers right here. So I'm going to start with this one. Beautiful. It is one of those like gray, blue, multi-chrome / duochrome type shade. I think it's a multi-chrome. Yeah. Oh, that is so pretty. And what I like about the Milk Hydro Grip Primer is that it is pretty tacky, so it helps everything just kind of stick. These shimmers have a dry texture to them too, which is why I think they work best with a tacky primer. They don't really have any emollients to them, so a tacky base helps it stick, and it also works really, really well with a brush. Like, there's absolutely no reason for me to be going in with my fingers, but just like pure habit at this point. And then I'm gonna take a little bit of this. Oh, it's like a champagne gold. Put that into the inner part of the eye.
This ain't forever, so hold me closer, 'cause we still have some time. Can't see the water.
Okay, this is pretty much the look. Let me go ahead, clean up my face, finish everything off, and then I'll come back and show you the final look. Okay, let's get started with look number 2. I want to do a stereotypical, just sort of like basic neutral look. I'm actually going to try going in with this shade here. This is the light, well, no, it's the second lightest matte in the palette. I just want to see if this will actually show up on my skin tone. Sure. I mean, she does show up, but she's a bit dusty as a transition shade for me, so that's not gonna work. So we're gonna go back into this first shade that I used in my last look and just kind of go over that, because yeah, as a transition shade, that first one, I thought it would have been deeper, but I guess not. And then I'm gonna do what I talked about in the last look, and I'm gonna go into this deep shimmer. It is the deepest shade in the palette. It's like a really rich brown, but it is a shimmer. So typically, you know, you'd put it like over the lid, but like I said, Viseart mattes, they can blend out really, really nicely. So just wanted to try that to see how it would turn out. Actually, it pretty much blends out like a matte. That's not bad at all. And I'm using my same Milk Hydro Grip Primer base. I don't know why, but it feels like extra tacky today, so the mattes are sticking to it a lot more and not blending as easy as they did yesterday, but still blending. This look might end up being somewhat messy. Jesus. Okay, let's fill in the gaps. There we go. Okay, for the shimmers, I'm actually going to start with this shimmer. I'm just going to plop that right into the center of the lid. Then flipping the brush over, I'm going to go into the gold that's right next to it and put that into the inner part of the eye.
Can't call you up when it's late at night. Can't call it love, but at least we try. Can't call you a friend when I'm in my head on a downhill dive. Can't call you cruel for changing your mind. I still can't call it a waste of time. I don't know what to call you if I can't call you mine.
Okay, so now that you guys had a chance to see me demo the palette, I want to say that I really like this one. Here's the thing though, when it comes to a lot of eyeshadows lately, I've been pretty much liking most, if not everything I try. I've become a lot more selective about the palettes and the products that I bring into my collection, especially the ones that I'm purchasing myself. So quite frankly, there are very few things that I go into and don't end up liking, because I picked out the color story, and what I've noticed is that most brands have kind of gotten the formulations down pack. So let me talk about this in sort of like totality. Now, you get the standard good Viseart sort of matte formulation. It's really nice, really blendable, really pigmented, absolutely beautiful. But what really struck me with this palette is I think that they have actually amped up the intensity of the shimmers in this palette. Now, typically Viseart shimmers, in my sort of experience, have always been a little bit almost satin-like, but you could call them shimmers. But to me, they've always sort of sat a little bit more satin. What I found with this is that these had a lot more shine that I'm used to with Viseart, but not so much so that they were kind of like overly intense. One of the things that I've always appreciated about Viseart is that they tend to keep their shimmers a little bit more muted. So if you have, you know, older, more mature or even textured lids and you don't want something that's going to emphasize texture or it's going to be too kind of like out there, like you prefer more subtle looks, the Viseart formula has always been that. But sometimes because they tend to lean so satin, it almost feels like you're doing all matte and you're not wearing a shimmer. And I feel like they added a little extra, a little va-va-voom, a little oomph to this palette. And I also really, really appreciate the depth that they gave us in this. Now, there are two shades that just simply don't work for me, though. So these two mattes are, as you can tell, just way too light for my complexion. Dusty, crusty. But if those are the only two, that's completely fine. This dark brown, you guys saw that I blended it out as a matte. And that's the thing, too, about sort of the, you know, the decision for Viseart shimmers to be a little bit more satin-like is that you could actually blend them out to use them as matte. So I really appreciated that. I also really think that this is a beautiful, cooler toned leaning color story, but one that would still work well for warmer skin tones. I have a medium golden undertone, not medium, I have a golden undertone, I'm a medium deep complexion. And because I have a golden undertone, I'm always very careful about the cool toned palettes or eyeshadows that I tend to use because they're not like my natural go-to and they don't naturally mesh well with my skin tone, in my humble opinion. So when it comes to using cooler toned palettes, I think that I have to be really selective and find ones that don't lean too cool because then they end up looking just a little bit gray. And I think that this is a nice introduction to cool tones if you have a warmer complexion and you don't want something that's going to lean a little bit too gray. Now, this is one that I would also feel very comfortable wearing to work because I think it's just such a wearable color story, but you could also use it in really fun occasions. That multi-chrome is a really nice pop. There is a lot of versatility in the palette. I am honestly quite impressed with this, and I say this because like I don't use my Viseart palettes. I have a huge Viseart collection. Hold on. I have so many Viseart palettes. Many of them are completely untouched, but that one is one that I feel like I'm going to continue reaching for. I do believe, this is how long I filmed this, you guys. When I got that palette, I had packed it with me to a work trip, and I think that that's in November. We are in February right now. So I have been traveling with it. I've used it outside of like filming the two looks for you guys. It is one that I genuinely like, and I do think will continue to be a part of sort of my like everyday most used type palettes. Anyways, that's it. That's the review. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you picked up the Viseart palette. Let me know what you guys think about the Viseart formula in general. I think that in the beginning, Viseart was a huge deal. It was a makeup artistry brand. It was a stunning formula. It was what people compared all of their mattes to. But I think that now that the makeup community and the brands have expanded, Viseart has kind of fallen to the back and people don't talk about them as much as they used to. So I wonder if you guys are continuing to shop Viseart, if you're still interested in them, or if you just don't care. Either one is fine. So leave all of that in the comments below. If you have any questions, thoughts, also leave that down below. Don't forget to leave a nice orange heart if you have nothing to say but you just want to support the channel. As always, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe on your way out, and I'll catch you in my next one. Bye, guys.